Is the stock market going to double in the next 10 years? Is the stock market going to double twice in the next 20 years? I don't know. I don't know the future, but we can look at the past. I got some details coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I am the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. I saw an article that had a headline that was really big and important, and yet as someone who's a financial geek, I thought this author has no idea what they're talking about. Their claim was, and it was put there right in the headline, that why the stock market could double twice in the next 20 years, which again, the market is crazy high right now. The S&P 500 is, just a little bit under 4,000, and thinking of it doubling twice in 20 years does seem outrageous. It does. And yet at the same time, what's history tell us? What's history tell us? So I'm going to jump to the whiteboard here, and I've got terrible penmanship. You guys know that about me, but let's just look at history and see if that can tell us anything about what might be ahead. Now, the author in this article said doubling twice over 20 years. Well, you and I know that means it doubles every 10 years, or basically that's what this author is saying. So I've got up here every 10 years, and we'll see if it doubled in 10 years or doubled twice during the 20 years. So way back when. Now this is S&P 500, so large cap US stocks, and this is the value as of 1/1. So on 1/1 of 1950, the S&P 500 had a value of 16. Isn't that crazy? So 1/1, that's our starting point, okay? 10 years later, it had a value of 58. So it doubled. We'll get to that, okay? 10 years later, it had a value of 90. Okay, I like this trend. Well, you're not going to like this. 10 years later, 1/1 of 1980, it was 110. So we didn't get our double there. 10 years later, 1990, 340. At the dawn of the millennium, 1425. And if you follow finance, you know what's next. You're really not going to like this number, 1123. And then obviously it's the beginning of 2021 right now as I record this, but let's go back to 1/1 of 2020. The S&P 500 was 3273. That's real data. I don't know what the future brings. We're gonna talk about some speculation and whatnot, but here we go. Did we get a double in these 10 years? Yeah, we did. Check. Did we get a double from these 10 years? No, we didn't. It was very close. We didn't. But did we get a double twice? So 16 to 32, 32 to 64, but we did hit that. It doubled twice over those 20 years. You see what I'm getting at here? So did we get a double from 90 to 110? Obviously not. But did we get a double twice in the previous 20 years? No, we didn't. Failed that as well. And for those of you financial history buffs, 70s were awful and stocks were dead and that no one was going to be an investor in the stock market ever again. So we know that. Did we get a double in the 80s? You bet we did. You bet we did. And did we double twice from the 70s to 90s? Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. And yes. There we go. All right. What about 1990 to 2000? Oh my goodness, absolutely we did. Absolutely we did. So there we go. That's the tech bubble right there, because this is the one time over those 10 years that this actually is lower, okay? But over 20 years, so So 340 goes to 680, goes to, we're just shy there. We're just shy. Barely. It was close. It was close. So close here, but didn't get there. Now, did we get a double here? Absolutely. Absolutely we did. 14, no, we didn't even get close. Didn't even get close there. So what's this telling us? What is this telling us? We've got this one as a huge outlier because not only did it not double, it was actually down. It was actually down. This one was close. This one not as close. You still made money, but this one actually down. However, if we go back, and if we go back even further, typically the stock market doubles every 7 years. And that's going back since even before the Great Depression. The stock market tends to double every 7 years. Therefore, within a span of 20 years, is it going to double twice? The odds are yes. History tells us there's actually a pretty decent chance of that, even though I've got a lot of hash marks. This one obviously wasn't even close. This one, for doubling, that was actually pretty stinking close. Pretty stinking close, these couple here. So for the author to come out and say, here's why the stock market might double twice over the next 20 years, guys, that should happen. That should happen. Except right here. The only time period when we saw stocks actually lower 10 years later, the S&P 500 actually lower 10 years later, unfortunately, there are a lot of similarities to right now, 2020 and 2021, to 2000. We are now at valuation levels as captured by the overall forward PE ratio that are in that range, not as high as they were back in 2000, but in that range. You look at the overall price of companies, the market value of companies that don't have a profit, and we are back above, actually, above those levels in 2000. The speculation in stocks, from margin interest to the speculation of penny stocks, we are back at or above 2000 levels. The overall market value compared to the GDP, we are back at or above, no, we're above 2000 levels. It's just about every day that I see a chart that has some sort of caption of this hasn't happened since 2000. So what are the chances that the 32 becomes 64 and that 64 becomes over 12, almost 13,000? History's in our favor. The odds are good that we should see the market double twice over the next 20 years. Yet, the last time we had levels that were this potentially, these valuations this high, it did not succeed that, and it was actually quite a long shot. What's the takeaway? Why am I sharing this? Number one, I'm sharing this because the market's supposed to double every 7 to 10 years. That's supposed to happen. So that should not be a headline to you. And if you're an investor, how you accumulate long-term lasting wealth is not day trading and speculating. Can you? Absolutely, you can. But you're also risking losing it all. How you create long-term enduring wealth is actually to follow this trend, even though there are times when it doesn't work in your favor. But the second thing that I would tell you is there's enough similarities to 2020 and 2021 to 2000. There's enough similarities that you should at least be cautious and be mindful of that. I'm not saying, well, you should run for the hills, because even with the big drop, things were back up to where they to previous highs a few years later. I mean, this is two big crashes here. The two biggest crashes since the Great Depression were in this 10-year time period. So I'm not saying that's what we're going to expect for these next 10 years, but I am saying it's worth being cautious. To us, making sure you've got a diversified approach and making sure you've got a momentum strategy, both of those combined, complementing each other to help you navigate whether things just continue to ride higher from here or whether the next 10 years looks similar to the 10 years or 20 years that went from 2020 to, from 2000 to 2010 and 2020. So work with your certified financial planner. Regardless of what the future brings, make sure you've got a prudent investment approach for your overall financial plan. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact one on my team. Find us online, korhorn.com, that's Korhorn with a K, or wisemoneyshow.com, or send us an email, info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.